Hello everybody and welcome to my predictions for the Italian Grand Prix that's happening this weekend in Monza. It should be a great Grand Prix. In the background here is some gameplay I got. I'm not the best driver at Monza, but the AI helped me out a lot in this race. And also the start was pretty good as well, so pretty pleased with that. As we kick that roll in now. So my predictions for the Italian Grand Prix. I gotta go through all the teams, all the drivers, see who I expect them to be, judging on their last performance in Spa, and also just how they've generally driven at these tracks. So, gonna kick it off with Red Bull here. And last year they did pretty well. I think they got a podium here with Sebastian Vettel. And also in Spa this year they proved that they had a great top speed in that Red Bull, which surprised everyone, I think, to be honest. Because they were overtaking people, especially Vettel and Hamilton in the first run up the Camel Straight in Spa. It's just pretty unusual to see from a Red Bull. They usually last in the speed traps and gain it all in the corners. So, judging that performance, I expect them to do pretty well, but then I expect the Mercedes and the McLarens, possibly the Ferraris as well, to up their game a little bit to cope with that sort of top line speed and surprise that the Red Bulls have. So I expect Red Bulls to come maybe 4th, 5th, possibly 3rd if they have a good race, especially in Vettel. Because Mark Webber, the start is just going to lose in positions after positions here. I've got a feeling. So Mark Webber, say, be the 4th or the 5th, and especially Vettel possibly 3rd. As we move to our next team now, and that is going to be Mercedes. Now, Lewis Hamilton came very close to winning the Spa Grand Prix, where he deserved to win it after the qualifying which he put in, which is pretty sensational to say the least. But I'm afraid he didn't win it because of his outright race pace, I'm afraid. So this track I see is a big upgrade for them. I say this is, if they don't beat the Mercedes, the Red Bull here, I don't think they'll beat them many other places on the calendar this year. I mean, I think Hungary was an exception, but they really have got to win here if they're going to beat the Red Bulls, especially in the constructors as well, because Red Bull putting out a huge gap there. And so I think they'll be doing pretty well. They've traditionally had top line speed, as we've seen McLaren go straight on there. Yeah, so Mercedes have had top line speed all weekend, or all through. That's what they've been known for. They're the opposite of the Red Bulls. They go slow through the corners, but super fast on the straights. Unless it's geared for a track like Singapore or Monaco. But I think they have a strong Grand Prix here. A podium is definitely on the cards for Hamilton and Rosberg as well, who's finding a little bit of form in this middle/latter part of the season. So I'm pretty pleased. But for Mercedes, I hope they beat the Red Bulls, because I'm not a great Red Bull fan. Let me know in the comments as well whether you're a Red Bull fan or not, because I think you either love them or you hate them, and I definitely hate them at the minute. I don't like them at all, because they make the races boring when they go out in front. But that's a different story, especially with Daniel Ricciardo moving in as well. Let's do another video on. So Hamilton, definitely a podium's on for it, as long as Rosberg. I say them two will be on the podium. And that's all I've really got to say about Mercedes. If they don't beat Red Bull here, I think their challenge is over for the constructors at least. Our next team we're going to move on to is Ferrari. Now they're a team that's doing pretty well. I can't say Fernando Alonso found some speed at Spa, as well as Felipe Massa, although qualifying let Massa down a little bit. But Fernando Alonso drove from 10th to 2nd in Spa, which is a great result for him. And I think he deserved it, because he's outdriven that Ferrari for most of the time he's been there. But recently, I think the Ferrari's found speed in itself, which just aided Fernando Alonso that little bit more. I think he'll be with a shot of a podium as well, possibly fighting for Rosberg and Vettel for the podium. Now Ferrari had this really sweet 7th gear going into Spa. It overtook everyone, I think, apart from the Red Bulls, which didn't really get that close to. So I think Ferrari's good. If they qualify up the field, they'll definitely be in with a shot of a podium, or at least some decent points. They'll be in the Red Bulls, I think. I think Red Bull are definitely going to underperform this weekend, giving Ferrari that chance of the podium. And I think Alonso will be the one for the podium. Massa's finding a little bit of form back, but he needs to keep going on, keep building up his momentum throughout the calendar. So Alonso will be for the podium, Massa will be in the lower down points, possibly fighting for 5th, 6th, 5th at best. And that's all for Ferrari, so we're going to head on to Lotus now. Kimi Raikkonen had his first retirement in Spa after 39 consecutive races, I think. I think it might have been 38, I'm not too sure. But it was a pretty sensational run to see. At least, of course, because that's probably how he got so close to so many championships. And I applaud him for that, because he really needed them points in the podium. In the championship. Unfortunately for them, I do not think a podium is on the cards at this weekend, or for many other races this season, to be honest with you even. Because Kimi Raikkonen, he's been the Alonso of the Lotus, he's been outperforming the car even though he hasn't really had the car underneath him. Meanwhile, Grosjean, he's doing better this season. I think if he had a better start to the season, he would have beaten Raikkonen in the championship, but as things have happened, it hasn't planned out that way at all. So unfortunately for Lotus, I think they're going to be fighting for the lower points, maybe 5th, 6th, 7th. I think that's a reasonable target for them. I can't see them, if they outdo that score, I think they were doing pretty well. If you remember last year, they had Jerome D'Ambrosio in the car, which didn't help their cause, it has to be said. So 4th, 5th, 6th for Raikkonen and Grosjean. I think Grosjean will have the slight edge there. Qualifying, I think, will let them down again as their car is quite so in a straight line. But next thing we're going to move on to is McLaren. Now McLaren are a team that is definitely moving up the grid, because I think Button could have had a podium if he didn't double stop in Spa, because he was running second, he was never going to win it, no one was going to win it apart from Vettel, but he could have at least defended his position in the Grand Prix from when he only had one stop. Yes, it would have been difficult, but it would have given him the chance of a podium, which I think McLaren desperately need. They've had a run of podiums for about, I don't know, like since 1980s they've got at least one podium in every season, so they desperately need a podium. I think this is going to be one of their better races for it, because they've got good top speed, they're a bit like the Mercedes, and there's not too many corners as well, so I think they'll be doing pretty well. Button, I think, will outperform Perez once again, but I think Perez will be getting back on track to where he should be at McLaren. Of course, he drove from 13th to 2nd here last year, giving a great achievement there, but then in Canada the same thing happened and he did better but not as good, excuse me. So McLaren, I think they'll be fighting for possibly a podium, but I have to rely on certain circumstances like Alonso or a Button, or Button retiring, no, or a Vettel retiring, or Alonso, or Hamilton even. Of course, Button retired here last year with alternator problem. And Perez, I think he'll be doing pretty well. He'll remember last year, and I think he'll build on that for his confidence this race. But overall, I think McLaren are looking at some solid points. I think Force India are being left behind them now, so disappointing on that front. And the next thing we're going to go on to is Force India. Paul di Resta, Adrian Sutil, they've had a great run at this track last year. I think di Resta could have qualified 3rd or something if he hadn't been underweight at all. A bit sent into the back of the field, but I can't see them doing well this season. I think they just simply haven't got the budget to keep developing their car like the other teams do, which is going to let them down quite badly for the rest of the season. I think their fight with McLaren is over, but I think they'll have a good Grand Prix here. They've got some good top line speed on that car. Possibly 6th, 7th, 8th, maybe 5th if they outperform Button, which is entirely possible, but much more challenging a car that isn't as fast, of course. Sutil, I don't know where he's been in recent races. He's been either holding up people or not really been anywhere in the Grand Prix. He's fighting with like Salvers or Williams, or he's just been further back for some reason. I've got no idea why, but this could see a return to form for Adrian Sutil. I hope it is for his sake. So possibly some good points looking there for Force India. Next thing we're going to go on to is Sauber. Now, great design car, one of my favourite design cars in terms of paint scheme for 2013, but shame about the speed, which is nowhere near as good. I think Nico Hülkenberg is outperforming the car quite drastically more than any other driver on the grid, so big shout out to him. No one really notices that, no one really takes much notice of him for doing that, but I think he is outperforming the car pretty well, and possibly a point, but once again, they're going to have to rely on certain circumstances to help them actually get that point. Possibly a big name retiring, which will hate a button as well. Excuse me, it is quite early in the morning. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning here. So, I think the Sauber is on for some points, but I don't remember them having great straight line speed, to be honest. And Gutierrez, I think, will be fighting in the midfield. I can't see him getting a point. Hulkenberg will be near him as well, but if things go their way, then for Sauber, they could possibly score a point or two. Remember last year they had a 13 to second place finish with Gutierrez. What am I talking about? With Sergio Perez. So, good things to remember, but sadly this season, if that happens, nothing else is going to matter this season for them. But, once again, if they get a podium this season, they're going to have to rely on something like Grosjean taking out everyone to this first corner, or the Whoopsie, of course, of 2011. That's possible. That is pretty. That is, like I said, that is very likely this season. But anyway, next team we're going to go on to is Toro Rosso. Now they're one of my favourite teams on the grid. There's nothing else to say about them apart from if they don't get into the points or into Q3 this time round, I think they've had it, to be honest, because they have unfortunately got the best car for this kind of track. Yes, it may not be the fastest, it may not be a Mercedes, a Red Bull, a Ferrari, but it's the next best thing. Their car does straight line speed, fast corners. That's what this track is all about. Possibly a podium once again. There's a lot of contenders for the podium this time around, which I'm quite looking forward to. But I think Daniel Ricciardo is going to be hyped, and he's officially confirmed at Red Bull. Doing a separate video on that though. And once again, Toro Rosso don't get a good points finish here. They'll be very disappointed with themselves, which will not aid how they felt after Spa qualifying. Yes, Ricciardo drove pretty well to get another point, drove from literally the back of the field to 10th, I think, to get that last point, which is well worthy of a shout out. So well done to Ricciardo. But I think that they definitely have a much better chance. As long as it doesn't rain and it's a dry race, they have got a really good chance of points here today. Or Sunday, if you know what I mean. But, and I think Van is not going to outdrive Ricciardo, because Ricciardo is still high on his move to Red Bull, which is really going to help him out. Possibly a 5th place with the McLarens if they play their cards right to Toro Rosso. They are behind them in constructors, but they're getting a lot closer, it has to be said. They could possibly beat Force India towards the end of the season. And so, possibly 5th place for Ricciardo. Van should be getting the points as well for Toro Rosso double points finish, which would be really good to see from everyone. And anyway, now we're going to move on to Williams, the last constructor with a point to their name this season, sadly for them. But I can't see them getting a point here. I think they're more known for corner speed than top speed, but I don't remember how the great run. Excuse me once again. I don't remember they had a great run in 2012. I think Senna may have got a few points, but I'm not 100% sure. They haven't really gone well at this track, which doesn't aid their cause this season. But fingers crossed they can get another point. I really like Williams. I hope they can get another point. Their car looks pretty good as well. Fingers crossed they can get another point. So, but it's going to have to run something exceptional, like 4 or 5 cars, like front runners scoring a point, or getting penalties, of course. But that car is getting faster. I mean, people may not notice it, but they've been in contention from Germany onwards. They've had contention for points, finishing 11th, 11th, a 10th in Hungary, and I can't remember what they got in Spa, but it wasn't as good, unfortunately, for them. But I hope they get a point. I really do. Without doubt, I'm going to be rooting for them in this Grand Prix as well. But it's hard to see them getting anywhere. If they get a point, I'll say if a bookie give them about 50 to 1 odds to get a point here, that's the sort of range I think they've got, or the chance they've got of getting a point. So, but anyway, that's for that. Maldonado, I think, will qualify Bottas once again. It's always close between them two in qualifying, so keep an eye out for that as well. Now the battle at the back revolves around Marussia and Caterham. Just quickly on them, Caterham always has the advantage, I think. However, Bianchi got the 13th place in Malaysia. Helps them out greatly, I think. So they're ahead in constructors, but Caterham are the faster car. It's quite an intriguing battle. Max Chilton, I think, will out-qualify. Max Chilton will, I think, out-qualify Bianchi at this race for the first time, which will be always good to see. However, they'll be behind two Caterhams with Van der Garde, League and Peak, who's been nowhere this season. So unfortunately for him, it hasn't gone his way, but I haven't really noticed Peak a lot in the championship. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it's confirmed for 2014, so Caterham, I think, will definitely out-qualify Marussia and outrace them here, but it should be pretty close between them. Looking forward to seeing that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy my predictions. Please make sure you leave a comment, let me know what you think is going to happen at the Italian Grand Prix. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe for more. I'm Hazard Gold, and I'm out of here. Goodbye.